Okay, this is going to be about the beast of Gevaudan. Now, the reason I'm really reshooting this, I put this on one of my other YouTube channels. I have an artifact from it. So, this is a reliquary box made about 100 years after the fact, and it's commemorating the beast of Gevaudan. I got this on loan from a museum, and I got to turn it back in. But anyway, there was some wolf mane that was kept in here, and there were some preachers in France at the time, Catholic priests, that were saying that it was a plague from God. So anyway, after they killed 2 of the wolves, supposedly, they kept some of the relics in these reliquary boxes, and this one was made 100 years after the fact. It's pretty cool. I want you to really note the mane on this. The first sightings of it, they didn't have a mane, but as the 3-year period went on, a mane started to appear on the beast, which will further what I'm trying to bring out in this call here. So the 3-year period that the beast of Gevaudan attacked, it was blamed on several things: a lone wolf, pack of wolves, a dire wolf, hyenas, a hybrid between maybe a wolf and a mastiff, a trained armored mastiff, and they used to armor mastiffs like that for war, which would lend credence to the fact that it was getting shot at and didn't get killed. But there's always human opportunistic slash devil worshippers, and I'm sure a couple of those were the human opportunistic devil worshippers, and there's a specific in devil worshiping, they actually wear like a werewolf mask and a lot of things. Like I said, it was commonly thought it was a wolf, but it really wasn't. I believe of the total kills, if you break it down, I believe 85% were from an adolescent male lion. I believe 5% were from a wolf, and I believe 10% were from opportunistic human beings. This is the main thing I want to bring up at the time. Now, if you go over the first attack where they actually saw something, it was a foiled attack. So this young lady was watching her herd out in the graze, and she said this giant beast that had a long, skinny tail, a very broad chest, leapt really far when it did leap, and giant claws, and just a big mouthful of teeth, attacked her, the herd of cattle she was watching. The bulls actually, started lowering their horns and ramming them. Bulls were much more aggressive back then. They weren't bred out to be as docile as they are now. But if you look at the way the wolf progressed, it didn't have a mane at first, and she identified it as a male. But an adolescent wolf doesn't have a mane. But as it got older, over the 3-year period, the mane started to show up, hence on that little reliquary box I had. Let's go over, these are the ratings for a male lion compared to all other carnivores on Earth. This includes tigers, polar bears, grizzly bears, black bears, and the like. So they're near the top of all the categories. And there was another thing going on at the time. There was a werewolf craze in France. There was a lot of injured soldiers from all the wars that France was involved in all over the world, and a lot of the people would have massive bad facial injuries, so they didn't want to be around other people, so they would live off to their own, and they would dress in skins because they didn't have any money, so they would just, whatever they could kill, they'd make skins out of it. And a lot of times they would be seen in fields, specifically of corn. They were called corn wolves, but they were actually people that had injuries, and they'd see these bundled up people with these screwed up faces, and they'd grow massive beards. So that kind of lended itself to the werewolf story. Another thing that was going on at the time, there was ergot poisoning. Now, when rye and wheat get wet, they can produce a mold which is ergot. It's called ergot poisoning. It's basically LSD. So half the country's tripping out on a mild form of acid. So, people think they're turning into werewolves. They think other people are turning into werewolves. Another thing that was going on at the time, medicine, I guess, was, for a want of a better term, kind of all over the place. I mean, people were taking medicinal poultices that had poppy in it. Aconite poisoning was kind of common. And so people were seeing stuff that actually wasn't there. And like I said, I think it was a combination of packs of wolves. There were opportunistic people killing. I think the vast majority were from this adolescent male lion. Now, if you want to see what happens to a male lion when it gets on its own around humans, there was a great book called, and they were called the Maneaters of the Savo. They were two adolescent male lions that didn't have a pride, that just basically followed this railroad as it was being built through Africa and just killed like 200 or 300 people. And they made a movie of it with Val Kilmer called The Ghost in the Darkness. It's pretty good. There's another movie I'd like for you to check out. It's called Brotherhood of the Wolf, and it covers this kind of area. But in that, a guy has a trained lion that he puts armor on, which is kind of a neat twist. But anyway, so the culprits are the wolf, a trained dog with armor on it, opportunist people. I'd like to point this out, that during the Blitz, there was probably 200 murders that people used the Blitz to cover up people they wanted to kill, because it's estimated right at 200. So there'll always be people cashing in on something like this. But the true beast of gevaudan, the one responsible for 85%, was an adolescent male lion. And let's go right back to that reliquary box one last time. Like I said, this thing's this one was actually, apparently they had an earlier one, but this one was created for the 100-year anniversary. And I want you to note the mane starting to develop on it. Like I said earlier, it didn't. And the beast of gevaudan had this long tail that wasn't wolf-like characteristic. I mean, that looks like an adolescent male lion to me. So anyway, thank you, and I'm out.